Hey!
Hey!
I'm back.
I see that.
You busy?
A little bit.
Did you finish Ixa yet?
No.
Of course you didn't finish Ixa yet. You're too busy. You have too much going on.
How do you know? Yes, you're right. But
Yeah, I figured as much. Well, hey, look. I have some things I want you to give away. Can you make a cool contest?
Yeah, why not a helmet contest? I'll give away a free pattern.
Yeah, that should be good. Make the nerds work harder for it. Alright, perfect.
I guess.
I'll see you in a few more weeks. You better finish that project.
Hey, I'll finish Ixa. You know I'm gonna get it done. I'm almost done right now.
That's what they all say.
What the heck?
That's what they all say.
What are you talking over me?
Okay, let's get started. Here's everything you're going to need. First, you're going to need this cutting mat to cut all your stuff out on. Trust me, you're going to want a cutting mat. It's good to have. If you can't find a cutting mat, cardboard's your next best bet, but you're going to need to switch it out quite a few times. So just keep that in mind. Cutting board's the way to go. You're going to need 6mm EVA foam. I picked this up at Michael's. It comes in a big roll, and the 6mm is about that thick. So definitely go take a look at that. It's really cheap. It's a really good amount. You could probably make 3 or 4 helmets out of that if you work it really well. Next thing you're going to need is the pattern itself. Yours is going to look different than mine. That's okay. This is the original. Yours is going to be exactly the same, just digital. Okay? Next thing you're going to need after that is some contact cement. Now, I have mine in a big spreader bottle. It does not come in a bottle like this. It usually comes in a small amber bottle. One small $5 bottle should be more than enough. So, taking that into consideration when you're making this project. You can get more in a bigger can, but you would need to put it in a spreader bottle like this or into a glue pot. But the $5 bottle has a brush on the inside. I highly recommend starting with that so you get a feel for this glue. The way this works, you put down a thin layer, and if you want it to be a little bit stronger, you put down another thin layer after it's dried on both sides of the pieces that you want to attach, and then when you attach them, they are not coming apart. So, you'll see what I mean. But DAP weldwood is the stuff that I use. You can use barge if you want to, but I prefer DAP weldwood, and you can find small containers of it in an amber bottle. All right. Next, you're going to need a cutting knife. I like to use a box cutter. These ones are usually pretty cool. They come with 2 blades, 2 sides. I like these blades a lot. Usually, when I start new projects, I'll always swap around and see if the other blade is fresh, and this one is. And you always want to cut with a fresh, sharp blade so you get really good, smooth edges. You can get a blade sharpener, but I prefer just to buy these nice big packs where you can just pull out a new blade whenever you want and then put your old ones away up here. Next, you're going to need some pins to pin down your pattern to your foam. And then you're going to need a Sharpie to mark down all your stuff. Now, I've already done half of my helmet, so when this is done, you should get something that looks kind of like this. Now, this one looks a little bit misshapen right now, but that's just because we're missing, the rest of it. So we're gonna make the rest of it right now and put the rest of this together. All right, here we go. Be sure when you're pinning this to try to get these pieces to lay as flat as possible. You don't want it to be pulling up anywhere. So really try to do your best to pin this down good, but not so much that you're tearing up the foam under it with how many pins you put into it. Okay, once you get everything pinned down and laid out as flat as you possibly can get it, now is the time to transfer it over with your Sharpie. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna get this outline as close as you can to the pattern so it matches on the foam, and then you're going to do all these registration marks too, and trust me, those registration marks are important. Also, you wanna mark what's gonna be the front, what's going to be the back, and what the name of the part is. This is really important. Now, this one says L top. This is going to become the right top. What we're going to do is we're going to be flipping this. So, if you're just doing the left side, trace this out as you see it. But if you're trying to do the right side, trace this out, still mark it as you see it, but then flip it over and transfer these registration marks to the other side. I'll show you here in just a moment. So now that we have all this ready to go, we're going to go and pull these off one at a time and remark down extra things that we need to have for later. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. So this one right here is actually going to be the right side. So I put all these markings on here, but it doesn't really matter how it looks on this side. It's going to matter more so on the other side. I'm going to be cutting this out and treating it like the left side until I flip over the piece and add these other registration marks and mark it as the right side, because this is going to become my right side. So to match this one, it has to be flipped over. So that's the magic of this pattern, is that you don't need to waste too much paper. All you have to do is just flip over the pattern and use it on another sheet of foam. All right, so on to the next part, which is the chin. Oh, should also mark that that's the front and that's the back. Don't forget to mark what's your front and your back. All right, now we can go ahead and cut this out. When you cut this out, you want to use a 90-degree angle. You don't need to do any kind of fancy cuts with this one, unless you want to. Then you can go ahead and do all those fancy cuts, but that's only if you want to. If you do harder angle cuts, like a 45-degree angle, and you do it with another 45-degree angle cut edge, you'll get a nice 90-degree edge. Or you can do a 60-degree and a 60-degree and get 120. You have a lot of flexibility here, but for the sake of this tutorial, we're only going to be doing 90-degree angle cuts. It's the easiest to do. Remember, you want to keep your blade nice and sharp. If it starts to feel like it's tugging or tearing, it's time to switch for a new blade. Next, if you're just doing the left side, you can go ahead and just glue this and get it ready for being put together. But because this is the right side, I'm flipping it over and I'm going to be transferring over my registration marks. I'm going to do this with every part before we start gluing things together. There we have it. That's all those parts added back on. Now I have to do a few more small pieces. Okay, once you have all your pieces laid out, they're completely cut apart, you need to add glue to all the edges that need to be glued together. So the first part I usually like to glue is this part right here. So I'm going to add glue to this and then around the edges, and I'm going to let this dry. You need to let the glue dry. You can't just let it be wet and then try putting it together. It will not stick. You have to let it dry. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and glue all these parts. I'm starting with this one. And then I'm going to start with the right mid because that attaches to this here. And then this mid part right here. Then we're going to be attaching the jaw piece to it, and then we're going to be attaching the two halves together. All right, here we go. I got all the edges from this part done, except for this right here. I wanted to leave this dry because this part actually does not connect to anything. So leave that part dry. Other than that, we're gonna let this dry and start working on the other parts. We'll come back to this sooner than later though. Okay, now that all our parts are starting to dry, this one should be dry. It's been about 5-10 minutes, so let's go ahead and glue this part together and try adding the second piece to it. So the first thing I like to do is take care of this side cut and try to match it with that line that's in the middle of that, in that pattern. That's gonna be there in case you want to clamshell your helmet. I'll be showing you how to clamshell your helmet a little bit later. You really want to make sure your foam is pressed in there. The best way to really check is to flip it around, go back and forth on either side. Really try to make sure it's in there good and connected. Looks like it's pretty good connection, so we're gonna check this next piece and see if it's dried up. It's dried, so let's go ahead and put it on. Move this one a little bit out of the way. I like to start with the front and then move my way back. You want to make sure you're lining up with your registration marks, those little black lines that are, little black dots that are going all across. Sometimes you need to stretch and pull the foam. Sometimes you need to bring it in closer or pull it away so then it matches up perfectly with these lines. It's okay to do that. Trust me, you're going to want to do that so that it matches the shape that you're trying to replicate. I'm really excited for y'all to try this new base helmet. So I'll tell you what, we're going to speed this up and go ahead and show you the two halves when they're ready to go and be put together. See you in a second. There we go. We got another half of the helmet done right here. Check that out. So now we need to glue the inner side on both the two halves and put them together. All right, here we go. All right, both sides are glued. Now we just gotta wait for both of them to dry. Okay, they feel like they've dried long enough. Here we go. I like to start at the chin. Put the pieces together starting at the chin. Be sure to follow your registration marks. This is going to be the most important place to do your registration marks. Usually I would recommend starting with the top part, but I wanted to show you guys how you can do this even if you start in a weird place. There's no wrong way to do this. It all comes down to how you feel about how you want to build it. I wanted to build it this way, so I'm doing it this way. Using my thumb as a guide in between these two marks and these two edges, trying to keep them as smooth together as possible as I come up and connect these parts. And then after every single 2 or so registration marks that get glued together, I want to go back behind each part and pinch, just make sure that it really got a good amount of glue sticking to itself in there. We don't want this pulling apart. And as you start to get this put closer and closer together, it starts coming together easier and easier. The foam will stop fighting you as much. And you'll be able to put this just the way you want. Alright, coming up on the back of the helmet, we are almost done. Forget to line up these registration marks as much as possible. It's super important. Now, go back through and pinch as much as you can. Try to get these 2 edges touching each other as much as possible. But really make sure you have a solid seal. It's okay if you want to press into the foam and maybe make the line invert ever so slightly, just to be sure that it really got itself stuck in there good. Yep, it's looking like a solid connection. And there we have it. This is the new base foam helmet. It's a lot better. I think it's going to be better for people that want to do Sentai cosplay as well. I'm really excited about this one. It even has a clamshell line, so you guys can cut this down and then add in like a little rim on the inside right here. And you could put a drawstring in there and you could work like a clamshell and not have to have clips on the outside. Okay, so there's a couple more things you could do with this before we're completely done with it. Now, this is fine as it is. It's a little bit bland. If you want to do more to it, I'm going to show you how. Let's say you want to actually wear this thing. I know of 3 different methods that you could try. So here, let me show you. The one that I like the most is the slip-on method. Now, the neck hole on this, that's pretty small. Nobody's head's going to be coming through that. However, foam is stretchy. It's a little bit malleable. And if you glue this strong enough, these seams shouldn't pop. So, if you want to get your head in there, you can always take a Sharpie and then estimate about 1/2 inch, maybe just a couple centimeters, and draw a line. Then take that line and try to match it with your finger on the edge of the foam and go all the way around the edge and give yourself a new back of the helmet line. Now, right there, that's really good for an extra space in the jaw. But the back, you're going to want to go up a little bit. So go ahead and draw that line up to that second mark. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just try to get a good estimation. And then just draw it straight across at that second mark right there. And then try to do your best to copy this exact edge on the other side. Then you can just trim that out and you should be able to slip your head right into that. It might take a little bit of forcing. If you got glasses, put your glasses in first and then try to slide your head in there. It's okay to put a little bit of force on it. And if you need to remove some more, it's as easy as just marking a new spot and just incrementally removing a little bit more and more. Let me show you clamshelling. On the pattern, there's already a line that I had available for y'all that I wanted you to put on for the pattern. Well, that's gonna be your clamshell line. Now, there are a few ways to do this. I'm gonna show you the 2 most popular that I know of. Personally, I don't like doing this. I feel like it makes a lot more work and you kind of lose a lot of detail on the side when you have to cut it. But I'm gonna try to show you a couple ways to keep it looking like nice like this. So the first step is you're gonna go inside and you're gonna try to copy the exact same line on the inside. Luckily, I already did half of my pattern the other way, so we have half of the line done, so that'd be a good gauge. what you're going to do is you're going to add glue to just the front half of the helmet around that ring. You're going to do just the front half. Then, with a strip of foam about 1 inch to 2 inches long, you're going to trim it. You're going to glue that one side just about the same amount that you glued on the inside of that line, and you're going to place it in so there's a ledge facing outwards on the inside of this foam. Now, you don't need a lot, only about 1 inch, half an inch. Because like I said, you don't want to glue this whole part, you just want the half. It's so then when you take in your knife and you cut it right here, and you go all the way down, you will have a little ledge that this can rest back on when you take the two pieces apart. You'll know how they match. It'll help registration. The next step is kind of fun and up to you. There's 2 ways to do it from this point. I know a lot of people like to use elastic. Now this is a 1/2 inch elastic strip. This is pretty good. I know a lot of people will leave the top attached and only cut down the sides, and then add strips of elastic going up and down. So it holds it nice and tight like this, but then when you separate it, it'll stretch, give you some space to slip your noggin in there. That's a fun way to do it. Now, the next way is a little bit more difficult, but it's called the string and bridge method. So I learned how to do this by watching Tested, the Adam Savage channel. It's pretty cool. They have a video talking about the masks from Ghost in the Shell. Whatever you think about that movie, that's fine, but please go learn about the behind the scenes of even movies you might not like, because you might learn something. For the geisha masks they had in Ghost in the Shell, they had these masks that had drawstrings to attach to the inside. Usually on fiberglass helmets and hard Power Rangers helmets and stuff like that, you get these little clasps down here, or these little pins that slide in. This way, it's cheaper and a little bit easier for you to get it on and off. So what essentially it is, you make a couple bridges. How do you make these bridges? Well, there you go. Now you know how to make these bridges, and essentially you know the concept too. You're going to take this piece, you're going to glue these two internal parts together so that it makes a little hollow bridge. See that? It makes a little bridge, and there's a little hole on the inside. You're going to make a few of these. You want to put them right on that line right there, a couple on the sides, maybe one on the jaw or two, and then just keep going all the way around the helmet. Now, you're going to have ones that are down here that you're going to need to cut in half. But that's good, you're going to want that, so then you know how to separate the two parts of the helmet. You just need to keep that lip that I told you about on that first part, add a few of these, and then take a drawstring and feed it through. So it's actually sitting in part of the helmet. The drawstring should be able to come out of the back of the helmet back here, after you put these two anchors on this side, and on the back of the helmet, you should be able to pull the two strings together and tighten it back up, tie it together, and then tuck it away into the helmet. And then whenever you need to get out of the helmet, you just pull that, you let loose the drawstring, and you can pull your helmet apart. So that's 3 different ways for you to be able to put this on your head. Now, like I said, the easiest way, just cutting off the edge. But clamshelling is a lot of fun, and if you learn how to do it just right, you have a skill that some people won't figure out for themselves for years, and I just gave it to you for free, so enjoy. Now, let's say you want to add some stuff to this, or you want to cut out some eyes. Let's say we want to put a cool eye design on this. Here's how you're going to do it. You could just draw it straight on there, but let's say you want to workshop it a little bit. You want to make sure it looks just right to you, and you want to have the exact same eye shape on the other side. Here's how you do it. First thing you're going to do, get some aluminum foil, all right? You're going to set the aluminum foil right over where you want that eye to be. So I want mine to be kind of diagonal. I think I might do like a tiny, like Andrew Garfield Spider-Man looking eye. Yeah, let's do that. So now that it's on there laying flat, you're going to take masking tape. And you're going to tape over the area that you want your design. You're You're gonna take a couple of strips of aluminum foil, and you really want to make sure it's laying down nice and flat. So you might have to fight the foil and the tape a little bit. If you need to fold it in some spaces, there's no problem. Just get it covered. All right. So before I do anything, I'm gonna add a registration mark. That's so then I know where this is going to meet up later. I'm going to do them right on the lines where all these seams are. Okay? Now, we're going to draw on our eye. We're going to do like a tiny Andrew Garfield looking Spider-Man eye. Try to keep it on the aluminum foil. Okay, see? I drew it and it's all still on top of the aluminum foil, not just the tape. Now that we have that, we can go ahead and pull this off. I'm going to grab the furthest backmost piece, so I start lifting from everywhere. Try to keep this as much together as you can. If some of it starts to peel apart, that's okay. Just try to put it back together as soon as you get it, the other part lifted and put back on. Helps if you actually grab the aluminum foil part under it too, as you're peeling this back. If you layer it just right, it should come up real easy just by pulling down the bottom layer. But there we go. We have our part separate now. And we have those marks still on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to very carefully cut away all this real fast. Now, I don't really care how mine looks, but you might want to take a little bit more time and make sure it looks pretty and really close to the edge that you want. And then you're just going to press and pull away the stuff that you don't need anymore. You're going to bring back your helmet, and this is where the registration marks come in place. So remember that one right there? Let's set mine like this. And then I'm going to try and line these up just like they were earlier on the other helmet, or on the helmet earlier. There we go. Now, take your Sharpie, trace that line. Boom. That's done. Now, you peel that off, you can cut that away, and you have an eyepiece. Or, this is the new place for you to add a piece, like a horn maybe, that comes up and out. I know, weird at eye level, but you could do that. But let's say, yeah, you want that other one, you want to be even. So because this helmet's symmetrical and I have these lines already set based off the registration, it's okay if it tears. Like I said, if you have your registration, you should be fine. Take this exact same thing. And if you did it just right, you should be able to see your registration marks on the other side of the masking tape. You should be able to lay this in a way that matches up just the same as the other side. There you go. And then you could just, you know, mark that one in there, put it in there. It's easy as that. So go crazy, go ham, show me what you can do. Okay, so now you have this beautiful helmet, and let's say you got all your stuff done on it. You're done completely, and you are ready to start finishing it, and you want to paint it and stuff. Here's what you can do. First thing I would recommend is hitting it with your heat gun. Now, this is a heat gun. Mine's a little bit more heavy duty. You can find cheaper ones for about 20 bucks, but the yellow ones that have two settings use the high heat temperature. That's what's going to work great on this. I live in America and I use Freedom units. So the best way I could describe this is about 400 to 550 degrees Fahrenheit is a great way to seal this foam quickly. You just want to run some heat over it until you see the cells start to tighten up and smooth up. And you don't want to leave it on too long because it can burn and you don't want to burn it. A hair dryer will not cut it. I do not recommend a hair dryer. However, if you have a stove and you put it on a high setting and you cover your arm really, really good, maybe wear some heat protective gloves, put your arm in there and hold it over the top of the thing and just very carefully and quickly move it over the heat. That could also do it as well, although that is a much more dangerous method and I do not recommend doing that. get a heat gun. If you're going to work with foam, get a heat gun. You're going to want a heat gun anyways, okay? Next, you're going to see your seams are starting to pop up and open up a little bit. You can go get some sanding sticks or even regular sanding paper, and you can go up to those edges you don't like, and you can smooth them out just by rubbing up and sanding on it. All right. Now, after you sanded out those edges, if you're still noticing some gaps, like there's a little one right there, you can come back through with a wonderful sealant called Quick Seal. This is DAP Quick Seal. You can find this at places like Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, a whole bunch of places like that. This one's clear, but there's also the white version. Both of those work really great. You just put a little bit in there, and then with your finger and a little bowl of water and a little bit of soap, just dip your finger in there, smooth over the piece, and get it as nice and smooth as you like. Wipe away any of the excess on the outer edges that you don't want, and just make sure you're filling in just that edge. You can go through and do it multiple times until you have a nice, smooth edge. Now, here's where it gets a little bit different. Now, if you really want to have a nice, durable, rubberized edge and make sure this thing lasts you a really nice long time, use a coat of Plasti Dip. I actually use 2 to 3 coats. I like to heat this up in warm water, let it sit and soak, and then I pull it out of the water. I'll dry off the can. I'll shake it really, 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 really good, and then I'll do a thin coat on the outside. Well, when I spray paint, I do one coat, and then I do another coat, covering slightly the top of that one, and then doing the same. You're slightly overlapping each time. You should get a nice, clean, smooth black finish. Do that 2 or 3 more times if you would like. And then you can paint it with spray paint. You cannot spray paint this directly. Spray paint and this foam don't really like each other too much. If you use Plasti Dip first though, it'll prime the surface and it'll take just about any kind of paint. But recently I discovered this new stuff called FX Paint. Now, I've talked about FX Paint before. If you've seen my Exa video, go check that out if you haven't. FX Paint is a wonderful, wonderful paint that's kind of like Elmer's glue, like white glue, but, you know, paint with a really high pigment, and these mix really well, and some of them even glow in the dark or in UV. These paints are great, and you can use them directly on the foam. On one of my streams a couple weeks ago, I made this little brick wall that you can, like, take apart, and all I did was just mix 2 of my FX paints, and it's directly on the foam. And check this out. It doesn't crack. It doesn't bend. I mean, it bends, but it doesn't crack, and that's like awesome. So like if you don't want to Plasti Dip and you don't want to, you know, go through all those chemicals, you could just go ahead and use FX Paint. So I highly recommend picking up some of these. Each one's about $5 or less. So pick your colors wisely if you're on a budget. But I'll let you know right now, these paints will last you a while. They're high pigment. You have to wet your brush and then make sure it's damp before you use the paint. And if your brush starts to feel too dry, wet it up a little bit, get a little bit more paint, go ahead and throw some more on there. I will let you know though, the more you thin it with water, the less effective it will be. So just try to damp your brush when you spread, so then you can push as much paint as possible. All right, so that's it. You guys want to do the contest stuff? Here it comes.
Alright, thank you so much for watching the video. Again, if you missed the base helmet pattern, it's down below in the description, and it'll also be down in the comments, so be sure to download that. Now, here's the contest. I want some of y'all to make your own base helmet, and I want you to finish it. I want you to make something of your own. Whether it's your ideal Super Sentai costume that you want to make the helmet, go for it. You want to make your favorite Kamen Rider helmet, go for it. You want to try and make an Ultraman out of it, go for it. You want to do any other character that you can think of with that helmet, go for it. You have until October 31st at midnight Eastern Standard Time, so that's going to be 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, to get me a photo of your helmet with the tag, "Hey Dusty, I did it." Real easy. Hashtag, "Hey Dusty, I did it." Just send me a picture of what you made. Now, here's another thing that I think you guys will think is cool. If you are working on True Kamen Rider Oza's contest right now, you can also enter those photos in for that. Just use both the hashtags. I've already talked with Reggie, and he's totally cool with doubling up on the contest and your pictures. So if you guys want to do that, go for it. Now, the grand prize from our friends at TeamKamenRider is a deluxe Beyond Driver from Kamen Rider Geo. It's a really cool belt. I'm sure y'all will really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, and I think it's a great grand prize. Now, the runner-up prize is going to be a Kamen Rider 01 Progress Key, the Panda Progress Key. That's an exclusive. It's kind of hard to get a hold of. So, grand prize gets a Beyond Driver. Second prize gets a Panda Progress Key. Pretty rad, eh? Well, if you also enter in Reggie's contest, you guys can potentially get a free O's figure art as well. Winners will be announced on September 1st. I can't wait to see what you all make. Best of luck. and just make something you're happy with. If you're not happy with it, don't force it. But if you are happy with it, post it, because I want to see it. So, get to thinking, get to crafting. Y'all got about, a week and a half to get this done. Better hurry.